Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Anya Stewart and today we're going to be talking about product design and my experience with the UX Academy at DesignLab. Let's go! I have joined UX Academy at the DesignLab in December 2020 after several months of careful research and consideration and talking to people and trying to understand if this is the track I want to go, if this is the company that I want to go with in terms of the bootcamp. So finally in December I did it. I joined the full-time track of the UX Academy and I finished the phase 1 last week, and I want to talk you guys about things I would have done differently, maybe some tips and tricks, because it is a pretty intense thing to change careers, and it certainly is an intense thing to do online learning. 50 hours a week, that's I think as much as it took for me to do the phase 1 full-time. Crazy. Phase 1 largely is a learning phase. You read a lot. But eventually you get to the point where you need to work on one of the projects that they suggest. It's e-commerce website, like a clothing company, is an insurance company website, and it's a time travel website. So 3 projects and you can choose one. I chose the e-commerce one because I wanted to have something like that in my portfolio. However, I know that, for instance, the time travel project allows for more creativity and kind of the out-of-the-box solutions. So you kind of pick what you want. A big part of your online bootcamp experience is your relationship with your mentor. I think I had a great mentor for phase 1. He was an illustrator and UX designer from Brussels. Time zones were a little difficult. We could only meet in the morning, like my morning, which was his late evening. Other than that, I think he was a great mentor. He wasn't really critical of things that were not very important. He just wanted me to kind of, feel comfortable and move along in the course and ask all the questions. I know that some mentors like to critique, I don't know, grammar, or oh, you forgot a comma here. He wasn't like that. He wasn't nitpicky, which I appreciated, because at the full-time pace, you really just need to keep moving. And if you're gonna start losing yourself into fixing little tiny details, you're just gonna get lost and spend all your time doing just that. However, now that I'm in phase 2, I actually requested a different kind of a mentor, the one with a stricter approach, because now I'm working on my portfolio and capstone projects, so I want somebody who's going to be standing there with a whip a little bit. I also wanted somebody who works in the American market. I thought that would be a big, very important, because people work differently in different countries, and I will be working in America, hopefully in California, so it's important for me to have somebody from California. Now I just want to go over the sections in the course really briefly to get an idea of what it is. I know that when I was researching this, I wish I could have peeked into the actual curriculum. I'm not gonna go very deep into it because otherwise I'll just get lost in my thoughts. So here we are at the DesignLab's platform. When I was choosing a course, I specifically wanted to choose a company that already has experience with online bootcamps, and not just a company that just transitioned to online learning because of COVID. I wanted to have somebody who already knows what online learning is. And I think DesignLab is doing a really great job at it. They have an absolutely wonderful and very robust Slack channel with so many threads, and everybody's talking there, and you can always ask for advice. You can always chat, and I think it's a great tool, but I will talk about that later. And right now, let's look at the platform. We see that it's Welcome to UX Academy, and the curriculum is sectioned into modules. The first 2 modules, let's get started, in Intro to UX Design, are introductory. They are somewhat easy depending on your level of expertise and your background. If you've taken the Design 101 or not, or I think it's called the UX Foundations or something like that, yeah. So I remember kind of going through this relatively quickly, but still, as you can see, there is an estimate here, how long it takes to complete this every module, and a rule of thumb that it will take you longer. Yeah, it will take you longer. At least that's what happened with me, and I think it happens pretty much with everybody else. So I kind of went through these relatively quick, and then we moved into the module 3, which is research, which is estimated as 28 hours, and it took me much longer. I don't know how many hours, but much longer. This is the model where you start doing your user interviews and competitive analysis and all kinds of different research methods that you explore. But what was important for me to understand, and I wish I knew it kind of earlier, that my user interviews will need to be scheduled and booked in advance, and the moment you involve other people, things take longer because of their availability and calendar. And like, I think I remember finding myself in a situation where I realized, oh, if I want to stay on track, like I need to talk to somebody now already, like tomorrow, the latest. And it was a little hard, so just keep that in mind. Maybe already start talking to people about having them being your interviewees. The research was fun though, like you get to look at other companies and just understand the market. The interesting thing that I noted about research is that you always learn something new. Even if you think that you already know everything, like with e-commerce, like all the design patterns are already there. Such a widespread thing, like everywhere, everything is e-commerce right now. And still, when I was talking to my interviewees, they would say something that made me like, aha, okay, I did not think about that. So just come to this with an open mind. You will always learn something new. Moving on from research to information architecture. Ooh, I remember this one. It says that it's 15 hours, but I think it took me longer. Information architecture, I mean, the name speaks for itself. It's kind of the way you organize the information on your website. What are the categories that you have? How are they displayed? How are you organizing your content there? There are certain like navigation and usability principles that you want to know about when doing that. And this actually took me not 15 hours, but much longer, because this is the part where you create a sitemap. And something in my brain just like I couldn't understand what exactly is needed from me when I'm creating a sitemap. So my mentor requested several iterations when I was making a sitemap, and that's what took extra time. But I'm glad I really kind of got clarity on it in the end and went through this process, because I want to, know what am I supposed to do with it when I'm working on my capstone projects. After information architecture, you move into the interaction design module. I think this was the funnest part because that's where things start coming alive. This is where you build your wireframes. This is where you build your task and user flows. This is where you start understanding what responsive design is and how things should work so that it is a responsive design. So this is where your website starts coming alive. One tip in Figma, I don't know about Sketch, but in Figma, there is this wonderful tab called Community where you can look at other people's projects and borrow certain things for your own projects. For instance, for wireframes, I found a wireframing kit in the community section that I thought would fit really well into my project, and I just used it for wireframing. I didn't draw the boxes, the icons, all the elements of it by myself. I borrowed what I needed and repurposed it. And the exercise is not about, how well can you create the rectangular box. It's about the wireframes. So use the resources when there are resources available, like Figma Community tab. Moving on from interaction design into user interface design, this is the module where you start playing with the visuals, where you start playing with the color palettes and typography and style. This is where you create your UI kit. I want to stress that moment because I actually did it wrong. I did it wrong, and later in the prototyping section, I was kind of like, okay. So when you're creating your UI kit, and you might not understand what I'm talking about right now, but just remember, make sure to actually understand and use components and variants when you're building your UI kit. Because later on, when you're prototyping, you will need this functionality. I just kind of skipped it, I don't know, just winged it because I was in a rush. But do not do that. Do not be like me. Explore what it is, what it means to make a component and a variant when you're creating your UI kit, and it will help you greatly. The last module, Module 7, iteration and implementation. You know, you're finishing things up, and what's more importantly, you do usability testing. And again, just like with research, I found out that when you're doing usability testing, you're always learning something new. Like, you thought you knew your product and its strengths and weaknesses, but your users will always give you some valuable insight. Like, I thought I knew already, like, oh yeah, I should fix that, and this doesn't look as good. But users gave me a whole another perspective on things. So never think that you already know everything. Your users will certainly surprise you. And that was it. Now I'm in this section, personal brand and portfolio setup, phase 2. Now, advice. Number 1, create your own limits. Phase 1 is a learning phase. You learn a lot, you read a lot. You know, if you want, you can spend all your time reading. Like, that's not what I could do, especially at a full-time pace. So sometimes, honestly, I would skip some pieces of, you know, PDFs that they would have you read. I would just like skim through certain articles. Just kind of don't lose yourself in constant readings. And the other constraints that are important to talk about here is the constraints for your project. In the Mirror project that I did, the e-commerce website, the brief stated that the company sells all kinds of clothing to everybody, to everywhere, and this is considered the easiest project. So they obviously tried to write the brief that anybody could succeed in working on. But for me, it was a little hard. I need some constraints, like what's your target audience? What's your style? What's your anything? Give me something to work with. And it was hard for me to work on the website for them because it was like, well, this could work and this could work too. Like, this, you know, really no limits on anything. I realized later on, and you can look at other people's work, other students' work. I was looking at other students' work and I was like, well, they clearly created a website for like a niche brand, or for a brand for men, or for, like, people created their own limits. And looking back, I kind of wished I did that because it would help me in telling the story better. And that's the most important part when your case studies, when you're telling the stories of how you solved certain problems. This one is for all of us beginner designers out there, because I feel like that's especially a trait of beginner designers. Do not focus on visuals until it's time to focus on visuals. Let me explain. As you go through phase 1, or through any project really, you create a certain number of deliverables. User personas, research, test results, user flows, tasks, all kinds of things, depending on your process. And only in the like module 6 or 7, what is it, user interface design, that's when you start focusing on visuals, on your typography, on your brand, on your colors, on your imagery, towards the end. Why would I not want you to focus on all of these things in the beginning? Because this is not the purpose of it. First of all, in the end, you'll be creating one big document, like a presentation, where you have to put all your deliverables in. So there's a big chance that you'll have to adjust them. You'll have to adjust the visuals to make it flow, to make it look good. So like, you kind of will be wasting your time if you focus on making it all one color in the beginning, but then in the end, you'll have to change that color. So don't focus on visuals until you really have to. Design is not only about visuals and colors and pretty things, it's about solving the problems. Damn, I sound so serious. I remember making my persona document, user persona. I was focusing on all these like bubbles where the text would go in and the colors of that bubbles, and then in the end I kind of really had to rework a lot of it to fit it into my PDF. And I was like, well, why did I spend all this time doing that in the first place? And I think it's also important just to be in that mindset of creating a content or creating like a piece of research and just doing that without being distracted by colors and fonts and stuff. Participate in other people's research and usability tests. This is a great way to learn and to see other people's projects, to see how other people work on their projects, to ask it for advice if you need to. And just pick other people's brain. We are all remote, and this is a way to actually have like a little interaction with your co-student. I thought that was an amazing way to learn more and get more experience. And also, you scratch my back, I scratch yours when it's time. On the DesignLab Slack channel, you can always find participants for your research or participants for your usability tests, and everybody's always very happy to return the favor when you need it. So win-win. Last piece of advice: surround yourself with all things UX UI design. Read books, watch YouTube channels, listen to podcasts, talk about it to other people. There's no one way to learn things. DesignLab has a book club that I feel like not a lot of people are aware of, but it's a fantastic opportunity to meet other people and read books and discuss them. I always find it very hard, for me personally, to interact in social Zoom situations and just have small talk. Like, I don't think it's working very well on Zoom. So when you're in a book club, you actually discussing serious things and people's opinions, and I feel like it's a much better way to have a productive conversation on something. So go in Slack and find DesignLab Book Club, and join it and read books, you all. I will link down below all the resources that I am using and have been using, podcasts, YouTube channels that I found helpful, books that I've already read. I haven't read a lot, but I will link down all those that I read, and hopefully they will be helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you liked it, and if you made it all the way here, you probably liked it. So like this video down below and subscribe to my channel, because I will be making new videos every week.